Going to give you guys a little treat. John. You have any happy memories?
Yes.
I want you to think back to the earliest, most wonderful, happy childhood memory you've ever had. I want you to imagine better with your eyes open or closed.
Closed.
Good. Close your eyes. Think back to that time when you had the most amazing, wonderful, joyful childhood experience of your life. See what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt. And as you feel it, I want you to notice that there's a place in your body where that feeling is stored, where it rises from and where it moves to. As you become immersed in that feeling, what I want you to do is point to where you feel it. Right there, that's right. And I want you to look at it with your inner eyes. Notice that there's a color associated with that feeling. I want you to reach in and I want you to pull all that energy out and look at it. Hold it all in your hands, make sure it's all there. Did it stay? Is it the same color or did it change?
It changed.
Okay. I want you to notice the color it changed to, and I want you to notice that it might be moving. Is it moving in a certain direction?
Yes.
Good. I want you to double the spin and notice what happens. Double the movement and notice what happens. Double it again. Double it again. Double it again. Now I want you to take that energy in both of your hands, and when it's unstoppable, when it's so strong you can't possibly contain it all in your hands anymore, I want you to slam it back into your body and notice what happens. Whoosh! How good is that, right? Good. Now, as you focus on this energy, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. As I count from 1 to 5, that sensation, that energy that you're feeling, that feeling that you love is going to grow stronger and stronger with every breath, with every beat of your heart. It's going to grow 10 times stronger than a moment ago. 10 times more fun, 10 times more fulfilling, 10 times more joyful. 1, feel that energy growing stronger and stronger within you, circulating all throughout your mind, all throughout your body. 10 times more powerful. 2, twice as strong as it's ever been, like a beacon in time calling you back to the very first scene, situation, or event that has everything to do with this experience. 3, oh my God, how much better can it get? 4, on the next count, back in time to the first scene, situation, or event that has everything to do with this wonderful experience. Boom! There's the feeling. First impression. Are you inside or outside?
I'm outside.
Alone or with people?
With people.
Daytime or nighttime?
Daytime.
That's right. Give me a report. Tell me what's happening.
I'm actually playing Foursquare with a bunch of my classmates.
Very cool. And it's fun to play Foursquare, huh? It's one of the best times ever. Notice how good that feels. Notice who you're with. Notice how good that feels. Excellent. Now, in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 3. When I reach the number 3, the scene will fade. You'll tend to your breathing, but the feelings will still be there. 1, 2, 3. Feelings fade. And now, as I count from 3 to 1, you're going to come forward on the wings of time. Forward on the wings of time to this very room, this very time. 3, 2, 1. Still in trance, still feeling those wonderful feelings. Remembering those joyful times. We're going to do something very special for that young man back there, that young boy playing Foursquare. And you're going to help him. In a moment, not yet, but in just a moment. We're going to fly back there, but you're going to go back there this time as the John of today. The John with all of the wisdom, all of the experiences, all of the understandings that you've acquired from that time forward and beyond. And we're going to give young John everything he needs to know. Everything he needs to understand to make things perfect for him from that time forward and beyond. So when I count from 1 to 3, we're going to fly back to 5 minutes before that moment we talked about, that we discussed, ever happened. And we're going to give Johnny some very special gift. Is that okay?
Yes.
3, 2, all the way back on the wings of time. 1, 5 minutes before that special event. Can you see him?
Yes.
I want you to bring him aside and say, hey, buddy, I'm you. What does he say?
He doesn't believe me.
Tell him what he needs to know to prove it to him.
Okay.
Say, I have a gift for you, man. Something you're going to love. Something really, really important. And I want you to tell little John, or Johnny, whatever he likes to go by, everything he needs to know to be okay, to deal with what the future holds for him, to be better than ever, better than he could ever have possibly imagined, and prepare him in a way that he deserves, that he knows love. Go ahead and take all the time you need. You can do that on the privacy of the inside of your room. You can say whatever you want to him. When you're done with that process, go ahead and raise that finger to let me know. And make him believe you. That's it. Perfect. Does he believe you?
Yes.
Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to take him in your arms, and hug him, and tell him how much you love him. And let him know from the deepest part of you that no matter where he goes, no matter what he does, you'll always be with him. To advise him, to keep him safe, to tell him what he most needs to know, and that no matter where he goes, no matter what he does, he's never alone. And as you do that, begin to feel him shrink down into your heart, where he's surrounded by all the love and protection and whatever else he could possibly want and need in a never-ending supply. And as you move through the future, notice how everything from this moment forward begins to shift and change. And notice how your life, as you move from that time through the present, begins to shift and morph. And when you're back, go a little bit into the future and see how it's going to continue to get better. That's it. Notice the feeling shift and move. And when you know the process is complete, by your standards, by your definitions, emerge from the state. All of the previous suggestions, positive suggestions that I've given to everybody in this room, that you've heard up to this point, are now equally true for you, and that only gets better over time. This is my gift to you. Now, in the future. Take your time. Let the process happen. Whatever you feel is perfectly okay. How you feeling?
Good.
Cool. That's called the gift. Okay? I know, you're sweating.
I'm sweating like crazy. Oh, God.
It's a huge alchemical process. Okay?
I felt like I was going to check for a puddle. Seriously.
He's drenched.
So it's like, oh, God.
Give him a big round of applause. What'd you notice?
The first half of it wasn't done last time. Keep improving the techniques.
I keep changing the techniques. But I bet the basics are the same. It's all modular. Have you ever seen me spin a feeling before?
Yeah.
It's modular. If I have somebody, I'll tell you when I use things like this. First of all, they're two different techniques, so it's not a half of the technique, it's two different techniques.
Well, I said the first half of what you did.
Yeah, the first half of what I did was simple spinning. We amplify the feeling. If you have somebody who's chronically dissociated, and he wasn't chronically dissociated, but body feelings are he's just reawakening those. So we want to create a very strong focal point. The gift works off of affect bridging positive experiences, which is directly opposite of what 100% of pretty much every regressive technique does. Regressive technique, as a rule, is designed to fix bad shit. Which, as a rule, or if you think about it, in terms of what we've learned about desirable hypnotic states versus undesirable hypnotic states, even though we want resolution, we tend to hesitate going into that less than positive stuff, right? But who resists getting a gift? Who resists feeling good? Right? And when's the best time to get a gift? When you're already feeling good. Because it only makes shit better. Right? Oxytocin release. Right? A lot of things going on. And you still get the shift. John, when you think about things that used to bother you now, notice how it's different.
Yeah.
Once you make the shift, you have them move through their timeline, noticing how everything shifts because the person who went through those initial experiences is different already. It's a variant of changed personal history, but it's still done in a regressive context. Okay? The affect bridge, notice that after I amplified the feeling for him, I put it back in the location he had it, and I amplified it even more until it was until it completely consumed all the bandwidth I could get. On the fifth amplification, back to the very first scene, situation, or event that has everything to do with this feeling. Now, you may get the event that he originally brought up, which is okay. You may get something else. It doesn't matter, as long as it's positive. Once you've acquired the event, you let him enjoy it for a little while. You could have him run through it a few times and amplify it again, if you wanted to. And then the scene fades, and you tend to your breathing. Where have we heard that before? Dealing with that reaction, right? You bring them back forward, and now, as the subject of today, the John of today, in a moment, not yet, but in just a moment, we're going to go back and do something very special for little John. We're going to give him a very special gift. We're not going back to fix some fucked up shit. Make sense? Although you can do that. I'm really getting crass on it, but the point is, we're going to do something he's already feeling good. He's already experiencing early, joyful, primal childhood experiences. Now we're going to go back and we're going to make it better. We're going to fly back as the you of today, complete with your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience, all the things you've learned. They say hindsight's 20/20, right? Well, we're turning hindsight into foresight. So now we go back. It's called the informed adult or informed parent. We go back to 5 minutes before that event ever took place. We pull that young person aside and we give them everything they're ever going to need to feel loved, to be okay, to survive and thrive. Forewarning, wisdom, security, self, whatever it is, you give it to them. And you hug them. And you shrink them down and you put them in your heart, where they're continually surrounded, protected, nourished by all the love and safety and security they could ever have. And you let them know that no matter what happens, no matter what you're dealing with, you're always loved and you're never alone. Profound stuff. And then you have them move forward through their timeline, noticing how everything changes because you're changed. You move them, and from there you can bring them into the present and move them forward into the future as far as you want, and then bring them back to the present and then bring them out of trance. Okay? The gift can be done as a solitary intervention, or it can be done as part of another silo. I usually use the gift kind of on its own. Okay? It's the exact same process, except that I'm focusing on nasty shit when I'm doing abreactive, emotionally induced induction. It's an emotional induced induction. But when I'm dealing with chronic pain, chronic, terminal cancer, whatever it is, I'm going to make the bad stuff worse and follow it back to its point of origin. Okay? But for the gift, which was another intuitive thing, just kind of spontaneously, I got this idea one day while I was about to hypnotize somebody, and everybody who's ever gone through it has had, it's like flipping on a switch. Your life just changes. Okay? And you get heat sometimes. Luis, the first one I ever did the gift on, broke out. He was sweating from head to toe. Just huge. Okay? And keep in mind, when you do an alchemical process like this, even though they're out of trance, they're still shifting. The body's always playing catch up. Okay? So take your time with it. Have fun with it. Partner up. Rock and roll. Well, actually, there's 3 sets of questions, gentlemen. There's 3 sets of questions. The process is really simple. The actual abreactive process is very, very simple. What's the feeling that you're having that either you like or you don't like? In this case, we're going with a pleasurable feeling. Where in the body do you feel it? Focus on it. I'm going to count from 1 to 5. With each ascending count, I want you to notice that feeling getting stronger and stronger and stronger. When I reach the number 5, you're going to go back on the wings of time to the very first scene, situation, or event that has everything to do with this feeling. When they get there, you're going to ask a series of questions. They can be in any order. First, and you always tell them, first impression. Are you inside or outside? Alone or with people? Daytime or nighttime? First impression, first impression, first impression. Okay? This integrates them into an experience. However they answer, it doesn't matter. What matters is that they answer. Okay? At that point, you have a choice. You can ask them to give you more information. I do that by saying, okay, give me a report. Tell me what's happening. Okay? Or I say, just enjoy it and relive that experience. Which is usually what's going to happen anyway. Let the movie play, fully immersed in the experience, and run through it times and amplify it. Just to anchor them in that experience. Okay? Once you do this, and you know the feeling's nice and revved up, and the scene fades and you tend to your breathing. Bring them forward. Because when you take them back, they tend to regress. They tend to become the 10-year-old or the 5-year-old or the 3-year-old. Okay? Bring them back forward. Send them back as the adult. Give the little person everything they need to know and understand, love, feelings, whatever. That's the ultimate gift. Right? And have them move forward. Don't get caught up in the verbiage too much. It's really very simple. Find the feeling, jump back, find out what happened, come back forward, go back. It's got a leapfrog. It's like a game of leapfrog. Boom, 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 boom. Right? You didn't think it would all be like super, super simple, did you? This is actually pretty easy. You know, that's why John will probably be the best one out of all of you.
You didn't have anything to put in them?
Huh?
So you're doing anything different thing? Because you went back.
No, not at all.
A new one will come up, a new memory? Or?
It may be the same one, it may be something different. Doesn't really matter. The unconscious mind is the one who picks it. That's the thing you need to understand, is that it's an illusion to think the conscious mind is doing this, even from the beginning. When a person walks into your clinic or into your office, it's the conscious mind doing the driving. They just have plausible deniability because of the rational lying factor. Okay? When you're doing abreactive work, and this is still technically abreactive or emotionally induced work, it's the unconscious mind that determines the destination, not the conscious mind. Okay? A lot of times we think we know what the problem is. And usually we wind up somewhere else. Now, one of the things that I add in when I get back to that point, I didn't do it here because it really isn't necessary, although I could have done it, is this feeling that you're having. Does it feel like the very first time you've ever experienced it, or does it feel like an old friend, like you've been here before? If I get, no, it feels like the first time, I'm where I need to be. If it feels like I've experienced this feeling before, focus on that feeling. I'm going to count from 1 to 5. When I reach the number 5, you're going to fly back on the wings of time to the very first scene, situation, or event that has everything to do with this feeling. You just leapfrog. That's called affect bridge. Okay? Usually you'll get within 1 or 2 events of the primary or the initial sensitizing event, whether it's remedial or generative. Okay? In this particular case, remedial or generative is purely subjective, because we fixed a lot of shit with one move right there. And that's what's cool about this particular technique, as opposed to a lot of other regressive style techniques. A lot of regressive style, negative or remedial regressive style techniques tend to be specific. They don't generalize quite as easily. This one tends to just, because of the way it's delivered and what's being delivered. Does that make sense? So you can make any of these techniques extremely specific or extremely general, but the gift is the one I've seen of all of them that tends to generalize the easiest, the fastest, and the most. Okay? So, any questions before I set you free to set you free?
I think the only question that Sal and I had was to validate, you bring the child into you and then you live the whole child's life.
And then you all move forward together.
Right, okay.
So you get into the child.
Yep. The child comes into you, you move forward. And one of the reasons, if you think about it, one of the reasons why that's so important is because what you built into telling a child is that no matter where you go, no matter what you do, I'm always with you and you're never alone. To advise you, to keep you secure, to protect you. So as the child is moving through the world, you're there. Right? You bring him and you shrink him down inside your heart. Okay?
We're still arguing on this.
Huh?
I think we're still arguing on this. Does the adult self get absorbed into the child, or the child into
The child gets absorbed into the adult.
Okay, all right. And so you live the whole child's life all the way through as the adult.
From the perspective, yeah.
Okay.
And noticing how everything changes. So by the time you reach the present, the entire loop closes.
I don't think it really matters, does it?
Only if you think neurolinguistically. If you think in terms of hypnotic process, no. But play with it, okay? There are times when I'll do the intervention and then I'll just have the child move forward. There are times when we'll absorb them together. There are times when I'll have the child get all what he needs and just have the adult sit back and notice how their entire life has changed. What's important is that kinesthetically and somatically they feel the shift and they experience things changing. The mechanics of how you get there aren't quite as important as you might think. Does that make sense? It's about the feelings. It's about how we recode things. It's about having information we didn't have them and noticing how our past changes, because it does. Our past does in fact change. The memories we have are not the same memories we had when the shit happened. Okay? Questions? I'll come around, don't worry, this is not... By the way, what happens sometimes, and I'm sure it may or may not happen, but if it does, every now and then when you do the gift, what happens is you go back to a really happy memory that concerns someone who's no longer part of our life. And in that case, there may be a bittersweet moment. In that case, you just remember the good things about it and let the rest go. Does that make sense? Or you go into a secondary intervention within an intervention, like Magic Frame. Magic Frame works really good in that particular context. Separate it out, right out. Right? Now we're doing trance within trance. Intervention within intervention. It's modular. You have tools. You can, right? Go play. I'll come around. If you have any questions, don't be afraid. I'll be there. All right, so the gift is an optional technique in terms of, I usually do it as a standalone, because by the time you're done with the gift, yeah, you're done for a while, you know. But pretty much all the other silos will start with the general negativity, specific, and then what you see here are a list of primary interventions that we could be doing. Most of you guys have already written this down, but you could use your Magic Frame as a primary intervention. You can use the gift, although it's kind of redundant with general negativity, although you can do it. Actually, probably work pretty good now that I think about it. It's a natural jump-off point. Chair therapy, informed child or informed parent, as opposed to consenting adult, you know, one of those things. Deathbed therapy, change personal history, or neurosomatic energetic repatterning. And in case you're wondering what the hell that means,
Okay, so what's
point to where you feel it, notice the color, take it out and spin it. That's neurosomatic energetic repatterning. Yeah.
What's CPH again?
Change personal history, which you've done a version of it with the gift. You'll do another version of it, or another variant of it in the later, in more of the identity by design silo. I'm going to do my best to teach the Richard Bandler version as well. I'm going to send that to Kathleen and John at the Society of NLP and see if I pass muster, so to speak.
When you pass muster?
When I pass muster. Oh, it'll happen. I just don't know how many times I may have to revise it for them. You know, I will actually be teaching and certifying people in NLP, but I will, in fact, be doing 2 certification tracks in NLP. One will be a Society of NLP certification, where you'll have John and Richard's stamp of approval on your forehead. That'll be a minimum of 9 days. I'll also be doing a certification track in what I call applied NLP, which is David's approach to street practical, no holds barred, help them till they beg for mercy stuff you can start right away. Those will probably be shorter tracks, but much more focused on getting results very, very quickly, and usually not just in therapy. It'll be probably more of a business track as well as a persuasion and influence track. I think that's, you know, from what I've seen, that's the best of both worlds, because I think what Richard and John and Kathleen offer is of tremendous value. It's also overkill in some areas and not enough in others. So it gets a little bit more on the theoretical side, the textbook side, for lack of a better word. Whereas the applied track, it gets you up and running, it gets you proficient, and it gets you results starting immediately. So that's my intention. So whatever track you guys want to go into, you know, you find the one that fits you best, and work from there. You don't have to do it by any stretch of the imagination, but if you want to get more of the nuts and bolts side of the NLP approaches and things, it's cool. That's my long-term plans, and we'll see whatever else people want to do. You know, I personally think you should, in fact, train with as many different people as possible, because everyone, even if what they do is dramatically different, has something. Even if you go to their training and you hate most of it, even if all you get from it is what not to do, you've learned something, you know. But everybody has something to offer you, you know. I think everybody should go see Richard. Not right away. I think Richard's basic training is still too advanced for most people, And I think to really appreciate Richard, you need some kind of a grounding to go there so you can really appreciate the artistry he's demonstrating. You know, it's like the metaphor I use with that is, you know, I do a lot of really cool, really exotic martial arts with some really high-level stuff. But until you've been somewhere else, you really don't appreciate that, because to you, it's all at the beginner novice level, it's all the same shit. Does that make sense? No. I want you to be more of a connoisseur, able to, you know, make those distinctions. But that being said, the bottom line is, can the stuff you're being taught get you the result you want? As long as it meets that criteria, it's all good. Heck, even if it doesn't, you've learned something. Alrighty, it is 5 minutes to 6. I'm probably going to jet out of here a little earlier, just to make sure that I'm not stuck in 20 minutes of traffic again. We are going to. I am having a systemic class tonight. It is not mandatory, but you're all welcome to come and participate. I promise not to bruise anybody too much. We do have some fun. Thursday night classes are usually a bit smaller because my Eskrima and weapons guys aren't there. So there'll be a little bit more one-on-one stuff. So let's start with just a little bit debrief. Steve, what was your experience on this, now that you've had a chance to get your bearings?
I'm still digesting, so that's a lot.
Right on. Intense? Obviously. JP?
Be creative.
Be creative?
You may not remember all the pieces to
Mhm.
make a Lego castle, but if you work it enough, it looks like all the pieces are there.
All right. Did you get a good result?
I think so.
Super Seth.
Yeah. Putting all this together
Mm-hmm.
is the doubling of the gift, basically.
Oh, doubling up on it? Yeah. These are cumulative, by the way. They do get more intense.
Well, I mean, the two parts.
Oh, yeah. Oh, with the spinning and then...
With the initial piece as well as the
Right.
secondary piece. I had an interesting thing because his first was pick a good emotion now.
Pick a good emotion now. Interesting.
And then, expand it and then go back to when you first felt it.
Right.
That wasn't very far. That wasn't actually into childhood.
No. That's why I try... One of the things that... Are they waiting to get in here?
No one else has this room.
All right.
The numbers.
Okay. Yeah. The other thing is, one of the things in my verbiage is like early childhood experience, or as early back as you can. Because remember, just like when we were talking about 3 magic questions, the further back in history we go, the more plastic the brain becomes. The more primal and primitive, or I shouldn't say primitive, but the more easily accessible the full spectrum of learning is. Does that make sense? So when we do it, we want to find think about a time when your early childhood, when you were the happiest, most joyful, most powerful, or whatever sensations you ever had. Because if you don't, they're going to go somewhere else. And that's a good example, where sometimes where you want to send them is important. Okay. Now, if I'm treating chronic pain or a tumor or something like that, I don't know where I'm going to end up. So the distinction here, since you brought it up, in regression work, there are 2 types of regression. It's either directed or non-directed. In a directed regression, you count to 5. You're going to go back to the time when you were 5 years old, having at your 5-year-old birthday party, and blah blah blah, and you're going to a specific location. You're telling them where to go. When you're doing a lot of affect bridge work like this, it usually winds up being a non-directed regression, because you're going back to the first scene, situation, or event that has everything to do with this experience, and only the unconscious mind and God know when that was. And God may not be taking your phone calls that day, but the unconscious mind is right there. So it's going to take you where it thinks you need to go. When you get there, the only thing you want to really you want to reinsert them into the event by asking specific questions that cause them to retrieve data, inside or outside, alone or with people, daytime or nighttime. If I feel like I need a little bit more integration, I'll say, look down. What color shoe? Are you wearing shoes? Are they sneakers or regular shoes? Are you know, little things like that. And the minute you start asking questions that they have to answer, boom, they're there. Okay? You may notice their whole personality shifts. They may start talking like a 5-year-old. In that case, you talk like you're talking to a 5-year-old. Because it's theater. And if you treat them that way, they will respond that way. Okay? Another thing that can happen in regression is they can be that person, or they can kind of be there but be a little bit dissociated from it. They both work. Regression therapists will tell you, no, you need full associated regression to do any kind of work. Not necessarily. It helps, but you can still do some good work. And you can still get them associated into the feelings and the emotions that they're in, even if they're a little bit on the outside. Does that make sense? That's been my experience. Your mileage may vary. But yeah, there's stuff directed, non-directed. Always try to go for as early a time as you can, because you kill more birds with one stone that way. Okay? John?
It was intense.
Intense?
Both sides of the equation. When I was actually doing it, though, I had forgotten to ask for the report.
That's all right.
But
Did you go inside, outside, daytime, nighttime, any of that?
No, that's
all right.
I didn't hit any of that. So, but
yeah, it still worked.
Yeah, she said it still worked.
How about that? You can leave shit out and it'll still work.
Where have we heard that?
But sometimes you can't take my word for it. You got to prove it to yourself. Because it's a tendency. Because we always want to do well. We always want to do things right. We focus on the shit we do wrong, instead of the fact that we did leave stuff out and it still worked. That's certainty. You made it work even though you didn't get all the steps. Right? But at the end of the session, the bottom line is, did they comply and did you get the result? I want you, so you can think of these as techniques. I'd rather you think of them as ideas, as suggestions, as bullet points, as guidelines, anything other than a technique. Does that make sense? Jacob?
That was great. Really like the chemical solvent and all that. It was great.
The chemical solvent?
What
were you snorting? He looked kind of happy during that process.
Snorting universal solvent.
Yeah, universal solvent.
Universal solvent. Yeah.
That shit's 80 proof, man. You better watch.
Ripped.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Right on. Super T. Camera can't hear this.
That was great, Sarah, the whole day. It's wonderful that we can learn all these things and do all this personal chamber.
Cool. Super Dave.
It's a good idea. I guess I was going to call it a technique.
Because there's so many ways you can vary it. You know, it's better to think of it as an idea with myriads of expressions. When there's something that mechanically you absolutely have to put in, I'll say that. But as a rule, a lot of this is really just about learning how to find X in terms of algebra. There's a million ways to do it, right? But did you get what you needed? Are there ways to enhance it? There's always more ways to enhance things. There's always more things you could do. The trick is, though, how little can you do and get the result? That's efficiency. And that's what we want. You can add all kinds of bells and whistles and complicate the matter, but how little can we do and get the result? John?
It was good. It was tough bringing them out.
Yeah, they don't want to come out of that shit.
I had to do that twice because he didn't come out the first time. He was like, open up your eyes.
Time to learn the coma threat.
Yeah.
You guys have heard, how many people who do not know what the coma threat is? It's very simple. Because the body undergoes a direct and massive release of endorphins, generally speaking, when you go into trance, many times people go so deep, so quick, and they feel so good, they just don't want to come out. So God in His infinite wisdom downloaded the coma thread into some evil hypnotist's brain. which basically goes something like this. I'm going to count from 1 to 3, or 1 to 5, or whatever. And if you don't come out when I reach the number 5, I am a powerful hypnotist, and I put you in this state, and I will personally make sure that you can never go here again. 1. They're usually out by 3. But if they're really deep, it may take them a while. You know, you may count to 5, and it's like 2 minutes later, you see something starting to happen, but they're not there yet. Okay? As far as I know, no one's ever just said, fuck you, I'm staying here. Of course, I don't think any hypnotist would admit that. So, the truth is that if you can't get stuck in hypnosis, it's a myth anyway. You'll simply pass into sleep, and then you'll wake up normally. That's really the worst that can happen in terms of staying in trance or being in trance. So don't let them bullshit you. Okay? Eric.
No worries. I'm used to these medications. I'm going through hours and hours and hours of it. So, no worries.
Yeah.
But,
don't you usually need tequila for that kind of meditation?
No.
No.
There are some things you can take, but no.
All right.
Yeah, the professional results. Really.
Good. Very good. All right.
Yeah, I've got a question for you.
Hopefully I have an answer.
I took someone through the general negativity of orange fluid and then blue, and told her to keep trying it on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that she keeps getting sidetracked when she tries to do it.
Okay.
Any advice I can give her to actually get there?
Well, first of all, if she keeps getting sidetracked, it's a defense mechanism. There's something she doesn't want to deal with. That's the only reason we get sidetracked, when we keep trying to do self-work, especially if we know the process. That, and there's a possibility that she doesn't have a lot of confidence in her ability to do it. She's afraid to screw up, so she finds a way to eject from it. So I would run her through, I would actually focus on what side, that process of getting sidetracked, affect Bridget back to this first scene, situation, or event that has everything to do with that reason she keeps sidetracking herself. Resolve it, and then let her go back and try it. See, that's the thing. One of the things that's going to happen when you get into the more heavy stuff is if you're affect bridging somebody back to the first scene, situation, or event that has everything to do with that feeling, you'll get this. It's just black. There's nothing there. I say, focus on the nothingness. In a moment, not yet, but in just a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. As I count the number 5, that nothingness is going to increase. It's going to get stronger, more powerful, more pervasive than it's ever been. 1. Feel that nothingness growing stronger and stronger and stronger. The nothingness is just a smokescreen. You amplify it, you affect bridge the source of the darkness, the source of the nothingness. Are you inside or outside? Alone or with people? First impression. You'll get something.
Real quick, on the gray room, why is there a dome on it?
I don't know.
Because it's an analog for your brain.
I don't know.
That's correct.
I don't know.
Just create the
I didn't create the technique. I mean, it's like that old story, like, why did, mom makes dinner, and little kid watching mom making dinner notices that when mom makes ham, she cuts the end off the pot, right? And she asks, and off the roast. And she asks, Mom, why do we cut the end off the roast? She goes, well, it's because that's how my mom did it. She goes, well, why did grandma do it? I don't know. Can we ask her? Sure. Mom, yeah? Why do you cut the end off the roast? Because that's how my mom did it. And you call great-grandma, who might be alive, and you say, well, my pot was too small. Right? I don't know why. But it works. I don't see any reason to change it. So we keep it. Could be an analog for the inside of the brain. Makes perfect sense to me. Right? Yeah. So, but I've done many variations on the gray room, but the bottom line is you create a safe place where somebody can feel free to find the less than positive things and through some mechanism transmute it into something else. That's really the overall theme of what you're doing. And just start to think of how many, just write the theme down and try to think of how many different ways can I do that. And then you have infinite technique. Just abstract a little bit, right? Go from lug nuts to existence. Make sense? I know you guys will go, the next training you guys go to, they'll whip out this 100-page catalog of techniques. Do this, do this, do this, right? And then all of a sudden they'll say, and then of course you'll get with people who are in class and who are by the book, and they'll have hypnotist disease because they've read the book. And the minute you go off script or miss a line, you're not doing it right. Fuck you. You know. Anyway,
Go deeper and stop paying attention.
well, actually, in that case, because they're actually not absorbed in the experience, you either go back and follow the script because they're going to be parsing for it, or make other decisions. But you'll get those people. You've probably run into them at some point in other trainings, where you miss a step, and all of a sudden they come out of trance and go, yes? Right? Tells you something about the people you're dealing with. Right? Or sometimes the trainers will be that way. You know? My biggest concern is, did you keep the client safe? Did you get them to change? If you got them safe, you got them changed, hopefully you stayed at least in the ballpark of the thing I wanted you to work on. But at the end of the day, did you get what you set out to get? That certainty. One way or another, we're going to make it happen. That make sense? All right. You're done. Go home.